Sam, how's your brother's wedding? Are you recovered from it?
I mean, it only took 3 days in bed, but now I have a jalapeno problem, so not really sure.
Welcome to Midlight Crisis, a real podcast hosted by 3 grown-up biologists revisiting books from our teens, and it's totally cool. This started as a book podcast, but now it's devolved into us debating like the ecological impact of glittery vampires. So, yeah, that's why we're putting the biologist in there. Just so you know up front what you're getting into.
We didn't know that's what we were getting into when we started this podcast, and here we are today.
And then we started doing math on how fast vampires can run. Let's introduce ourselves. My name is Sophie, and as always, I have a randomly generated name, but this time it's a fantasy name. My randomly generated name is a good one, which I think I say every time. They're always good. My name is... Sorry.
Is...
Okay, I have to not think about it before I say it. Okay. Okay.
Oh my god, the anticipation.
It's just I keep reading it as I'm about to say it, and it's too much. Okay. My name is Bronweed Deathlone.
Oh no.
Oh my gosh.
Oh,
wow.
Bronweed just keeps getting to me. It's me, Bronweed.
Bronweed.
Deathlone. Loan me your death. Oh, man. I'm probably some kind of, like, assassin. One of those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait, what was the last name again?
Death loan? Like a
Yeah.
loan you get from a bank?
Yeah.
You know the
You're definitely
the murder
an
bank?
assassin. Yeah.
The murder bank?
There's like,
Definitely.
I'm about to murder someone, and my one-liner before they die is like, I'm coming to collect.
So are you like a reaper? Because that's cool.
I guess so. That would be cool. That would make more sense.
Yeah.
Okay. Who are you guys?
Oh boy, I don't know if I can top that. I don't even know if I can say mine. But my real name is Sam, and my fantasy name of the week is Libly Griffinemy.
Wait.
What?
Uh-huh.
Libly Griffinemy. Y'all are better with pronunciation. One sec, let me just copy this into the chat, and
Okay,
we'll see what y'all think.
Oh, I love this new generator. Libly Griffin enemy.
Yeah, I was trying to not be like Griffin enemy.
Griffin enemy. I'm Libly Griffin enemy.
I think I'm a townsperson. I'm just like the tavern wench, I guess is the correct word to use. You know?
Yeah, you'd be like the one who owns the bar or something.
Exactly.
Libly is like weirdly cute.
Libly is fun.
Libly.
And I like looking at the word Griffin enemy.
Yeah.
It's fun.
It is.
I know it's like a pet peeve of Hannah's, and sometimes mine, when people say the word anemone as anemone, like you put an N where the M is supposed to be. I mean, it's fine. I'm never going to stop somebody. But this word is the wrong way to say anemone. Griffin enemy.
Griffin enemy.
I love it.
Anyways.
Anyway, my name is Hannah, but for the purposes of this podcast, you can call me Grapfon King Blower.
What? You are a pirate lord. There is no question about it. You are a pirate lord.
I was like, am I some sort of concubine?
Or
Okay,
that.
wait, one more time.
Yeah.
It is I, Grapfon King Blower. Grapfon is very piratey. King
like
Blower
my
is
father
a little...
and his father before him.
The long line of King Blowers. Gosh.
Grapfin is good.
Grapfin is pretty good. Grapfin and my friends Libby and whatever the fuck Sophie was.
Bronweed, of course.
Oh yes, Bronweed.
Great. Okay, that was a good round. So anyway, to get into our why we have the fantasy names is for the fantasy book we're reading, which is Eragon.
Yay.
We read 2 chapters this week to simulate the Twilight and Midnight Sun experience, but way better.
But also because one of the chapters is only 2 pages, and like,
yeah,
we can waffle on for a while, but that's asking a bit much.
That's asking a bit much. We'd go on some tangents, hopefully.
Mm-hmm.
Or the episode would be 14 minutes long, and we'd be like, all right, see you next week.
Bye.
But yeah, do you want to tell us what happened in the first chapter, Sam?
Yeah, so I looked out with the shorter chapter to summarize. And obviously my summaries will not be as good as Hannah's because I don't know what's going on. But we are now introduced to our good old 15-year-old white protagonist, Eragon!
Hey.
He starts off the chapter with some hunting, which is quickly ruined by some mysterious disturbance. I wonder what it is.
Whoa.
And then he finds the shiny blue stone that I'm sure is important later on in the book, and I might have spoiled myself, aka my boyfriend spoiled it for me.
Wow.
Wow.
Rude.
Anyways. Hannah, what happened in Palancar Valley? Did I say that right? Palancar?
I think so.
Probably.
That's how I say it.
Cool. Go me.
Yeah, you did it. So, chapter 2 of Eragon is called Palancar Valley, and it is very much a stage-setting chapter where we, as the readers, learn more about the setting, specifically the titular Palancar Valley, which is where Eragon's hometown of Carvajal is. So we get like a little bit of the topography of the area, and we're introduced to some characters, including Sloane the Butcher, who is immediately established as being antagonistic towards Eragon, and Horse the Blacksmith, who is immediately established as being an ally to Eragon when he buys food for Eragon's family when Sloane won't accept payment in the form of a very mysterious blue rock. It also establishes that, of course, Eragon is a little orphan boy who was raised by his uncle and lives with his cousin.
Cute.
Yeah. Listen, you know how I feel about this kind of thing, okay? I am on board with Eragon and his family.
Okay, but these 2 chapters literally could not scream, I'm the chosen one trope more. Like,
I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, I have a quote.
Oh no, okay.
Eragon was one of those few that could enter the spine, not because of any particular gift, but it seemed because of his persistent vigilance and sharp reflexes. I'm sure there is a particular gift in there somewhere.
No, he's just a regular boy like everyone else.
He's just like you and me.
Of course.
Regular, normal person.
Just a totally normal kid. I did notice, I guess, or start thinking about the trope that, like, you introduce the teen fantasy protagonist as they are the hunter. And then I was trying to, like, look up that trope to see if I could find more examples other than Katniss and Feyre. But I couldn't figure out what the trope was called. But, like, that's a thing, right? Like, it's not just that I have read those specific books. That's, like, a widespread thing where it's, like, we introduce our protagonist as like the only person in their village who like is brave enough to go hunting in this certain place, and then you see them hunting as like a character establishing moment. What like
Yeah.
where did that come from?
I mean, I feel like that's very fairy tale, right? Like,
Oh, true.
Yeah.
I was going to say a lot of books that I have read
Uh-huh.
have that kind of trope at the beginning where it's always like the only person willing to, be different, go outside the town,
Yeah.
brave the forest. I think it's called, I feel like the trope might be called like Into the like it's something about Into the Woods or something. Like that's a musical, but there is a trope of like going into the forest.
It's like it's a thing.
I can't think of any other examples besides the two you mentioned, Hannah, but yeah, I feel like, yes.
This isn't an original idea. Both of the books that I can think of came after Eragon, but I'm sure Eragon wasn't the one to originate it.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, I mean, The Bear and the Nightingale does it, and Uprooted and Spinning Silver do it too, I'm pretty sure. So
those seems like books that would do it. Yep.
Yes.
And like not to just always come back to it, but I'm pretty sure every Mercedes Lackey fairy tale book does it too.
Dang.
This would make
In
sense.
some sense. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's a thing. Anyway, Eragon, unlike Katniss and Feyre, fails to get anything in his hunt. Not necessarily because of his own lack of skill, but because of this mysterious stone that appears.
So mysterious.
So mysterious. And the stone is described in some detail. It has a flawless surface that is polished so smooth that nature could never have done it. It's dark blue with veins of white. It's cool and frictionless like hardened silk or like perhaps a vampire. And it is oval, about a foot long, and weighs several pounds, though it felt lighter than it should have. So Sam, what do we think is the deal with this stone?
Okay, so if I didn't know this book was about dragons, my like first gut was I thought that the stone had something to do with like magic, and if you had the stone, like you could hatch a dragon or something like that. Because of the way it's described, I didn't think it was an egg, but now I'm pretty sure that it's the egg to his dragon.
Dang.
Yeah.
What gave it away? Maybe the fact that it was very blue and like the book is super blue with a blue dragon on it.
Yeah. I won't lie, it was Wikipedia that wrote it. But I don't know, I just like the way they were describing it, I was like, I didn't think egg right away. Again, well, I did miss the very obvious vampire in the prologue, so
you're just off your game a little bit.
Yeah, it's a rough few months. Yeah, Wikipedia kindly told me that it is in fact, I believe, a dragon egg. But also, I think I knew that the main character's name was Eragon, but I thought the dragon's name was Eragon. So, anyways, that's how it ended up getting spoiled to me.
Alas. I mean, Eragon does seem more like a dragon name than a person name, simply based on the fact that it's literally just
dragon.
The word dragon, but he went one letter down in the alphabet and was like, yeah, good enough.
Yeah, that's it. Yep. That's the name.
That's it. That's the one for me. All right. Yep. Well, now that we know that this is an egg, I want to talk about eggs.
Oh, hell yeah.
All right.
Specifically, that this is a very big egg. The largest extant egg is the ostrich egg, which is only about 6 inches long, so that's half as big as this mysterious blue egg that could or could not have a dragon within it. And ostrich eggs weigh about 3 pounds. Obviously pretty sizable, but not quite as big as this mysterious egg. So I was like, what's a large lizard that might have had large eggs?
Oh god.
Oh.
So I discovered that this egg that Eragon has found is about equivalent in size to the egg of the Hypsilosaurus, which is the largest egg that has ever been discovered and was laid by the Hypsilosaurus, which was a species of sauropod, so a dinosaur. These eggs
Oh.
were a foot long and weighed about 15.5 pounds. Weirdly, Hypsilosaurus was like a fairly small sauropod, so maybe other sauropods had bigger kinds of eggs, or had bigger sizes of eggs that just haven't been discovered yet.
Yeah.
But I only know a little bit about sauropods. I know they're like tetrapod herbivores, Diplodocus, and like Brachiosaurus, like all of those big ones you think of with the really long necks and the really long tails.
Mm-hmm.
For example, if you were like me and were obsessed with Land Before Time as a kid, they are the long necks.
Yeah.
So there's some of the biggest dinosaur species to have existed, with some of the biggest eggs to ever have existed. But, you know, as someone who doesn't know very much about dinosaurs, I thought it would be cool to ask somebody who does know things about dinosaurs. So, Sophie, can you tell us about sauropods?
I was like, yeah, that's definitely not me. So,
man, I won't lie. Sauropods are some of the dinosaurs I am the least interested in.
But they're so
tell
big.
any of the paleontologists.
Oh man.
Listen, I was more into extinct invertebrates.
Okay.
I'm
Perhaps
shocked.
unsurprisingly. And then also the bird dinosaurs.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, a fun thing about eggs and sauropods, what? Huh? Sauropods, is that there's some parental care, probably, just in that they would keep together in herds.
They do move in herds.
They do move in herds, just like the historically accurate Jurassic Park. But otherwise, there's some debate on if the babies would like form their own herds and then kind of hang out with the adults later. Yeah, I guess it probably depends on the species. And also, it's pretty hard to determine behavior from fossils.
Yeah.
True.
Perhaps
Truth.
unsurprisingly.
Yes.
Yep.
What I do know is that for the size, right, like titanosaurs, which are like the biggest sauropods, are like gigantic, right? Like they're so big. And the eggs, for having an egg that's like a foot long, like that's tiny.
Yeah. So titanosaurs and like I guess other big sauropods maybe can get over 100 feet or 30 meters long, which is ridiculously big.
Yeah. I think Patagotitan, I think is the biggest one. Yeah, and it was definitely over 100 feet long.
That's so
big.
big.
Your baby is so tiny.
Wow.
So tiny. So at least like this egg compared to a bird, this egg could conceivably grow into a very long dragon.
Yes.
Damn.
If that's what it does. Who knows?
It could just be a rock.
Yeah, could just be a rock is what I think.
It's just a magical rock.
It's just a magical rock
that allows a dragon to like form somehow.
Yeah. It's like Aristotle's theory of spontaneous generation, like how if you leave a bunch of rags on the floor, mice will generate there. It's the same kind of thing. If you have a bunch of magical rocks, then a dragon spawns in that area.
Yeah, exactly.
100%.
Yeah. I also just like the sentence right before the description of the egg, which Hannah said, nature had never polished a stone as smooth as this one. It's such a weird sentence. Like
it's so weird.
But nature polished this egg as smooth as it. Like
like that's nature.
Like have you ever picked up like a river stone? Like they're pretty smooth.
But they're not as smooth as this egg, which feels like hardened silk.
I mean, there are some pretty smooth stones out there.
It's true. You know, maybe he just thought that someone had like a really, really big rock tumbler set up in their living room and then threw an egg into an explosion and made it appear in the middle of his hunt. Totally logical. Magic, you know?
Yeah, my brain immediately was like, oh, so like the creationism is what's going on here. Right, like, oh, it's a living creature, so it must have been created by God.
Oh.
I didn't
And I
even
was
think
like,
of that.
I don't know about that.
Yeah, that's a like I thought that sentence was weird just in its construction, not as much in its message. Like it's just a really weird way to say that.
Mm-hmm.
But I
Yeah.
suppose again, he was a 15-year-old fantasy reader, so he
Yeah.
gets a pass.
He gets a pass.
I was gonna say a lot of his writing is very
Yeah.
metaphor-y, questionable metaphors, and just very odd.
Yeah, it's not masterful by any means.
No.
Yeah.
I still thoroughly enjoyed it, but that might be because of like how much I enjoyed Eragon as a kid. Like the second
Yeah.
chapter, the Palancar Valley chapter, the whole time I was reading it, I was like getting stoked and like remembering all of these things. Was like, oh my gosh, like they're in the spine, and like, oh yeah, like he lives in Carvajal, and like isn't Carvajal super? Oh yeah, it is super isolated. Like, oh my god. And the first time I saw Sloane's name on the page, I was like, ooh, I have bad vibes from this guy, but I can't remember why. And then Sloane immediately acts like an asshole, and I'm like, that's why.
That's why. That's the one. Did we confirm if these books hang out in 9 to 12? They must, right?
Yeah, so the last time I was at Chapters, they were shelved in the teen section. There were a couple shelves below Fireborn and like one shelf over from the Twilight books.
Mm-hmm.
I know we talked about this before, that there's kind of like older YA and younger YA, and it like there's no technical distinction, but there is kind of an obvious distinction like as a reader. I feel like this falls more into the like younger YA middle grade category, but it is technically shelved in teen.
Okay. Probably because of the later books? Question mark?
I don't remember the later books as much.
Me neither.
I feel like maybe because of the later books, if it gets more YA, like that's because like that's what they did with A Court of number 1 through 3, because because A Court of number 4 was so spicy, they had to put the whole series in adult, because obviously if someone starts reading it at like 15, they'll probably make it to that 4th book pretty quick, and oh boy.
Yeah.
So I don't know, that might be, I obviously didn't read the other 4 books, so I don't know how Eragon ends with the last book, but maybe it gets pretty dark like Harry Potter does.
I do remember it like gets pretty intense at certain parts. And I remember being kind of overwrought and upset at the end of the series. I don't remember why, but like it probably did get kind of dark up in there. So that could be why. Mm-hmm.
Dang.
I do know there's one character whose story is like absolutely fucking tragic, and I thought about a lot as a kid.
Aww. But later, right?
Yeah, we won't meet him for a while.
Great.
Oh, okay.
I did, confirm. On the Chapters website, Eragon is on the 100 best teen books of all time list. So,
sure.
It is below Twilight, you guys.
I hate that.
Oh boy.
Twilight is 4th on the list. Hunger Games is 1st. This might not be in order.
Right.
Hunger Games is the first row is Hunger Games, The Hate You Give, and Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows.
The Hate You Give is astoundingly good.
There you go.
Yeah.
I mean, those are all good choices.
A Court of Thorns and Roses is below Eragon.
Okay.
So get ready, Sam. You're going to love this book.
I'm on board with that, but I think it's objectively incorrect.
I think objectively, no.
No, maybe not so much.
Was anyone else like, I don't know, Eragon was, at this point, we've only heard him speak for like 4 pages. Yeah. He's like wildly mature.
Yes.
Like,
yeah, for a protagonist of a teen book, so far, he's like extremely chill and competent.
It is very, very Katniss Everdeen, the kind of like, I have grown up to take care of my family kind of vibe.
Yeah.
in this world, he does specifically say that being 15, he is less than a year away from being considered an adult.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah. I just feel like in the traditional teen novel, as opposed to like the traditional fantasy novel,
Right.
by this point you would have gotten in his head more.
Mm.
And he would have like been stressed about stuff or like questioning, you know, what he was doing, or right, like
Yeah, that's a good point.
in his head he would be unsure of himself, or like, yeah, maybe it's just because we read Twilight before then.
Maybe, yeah.
But I just feel like there's a lot of like mental dithering going on in teen books. So like I was like, wow, what a chill guy. I like this so far.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's the difference of like having a male lead as opposed to how people perceive a female lead character.
Yeah.
I wonder.
Yeah, right. I was gonna say, I wonder if it's related to the fact that it was written by somebody who was the same age as the character.
Yeah.
So there's like less of a need to try to communicate a teen headspace, because as far as he's concerned, like, this is just the headspace that Eragon has, because it's the headspace that he has in this world he's created.
Yeah.
That's true, yeah.
One of the criticisms that a lot of like the older YA in particular can get, and a criticism that I often have for it, is teenagers not acting like teenagers. Like, if you read Six of Crows and you want to tell me that Kaz Brecker's 17, like, that man is 23 at a minimum. There's no way that's a 17-year-old. But at least in this case, it's a 15-year-old written by a 15-year-old, so it's like, this is presumably going to be a very accurate portrayal of a teen headspace in this situation. So I think that, like, that'll be really interesting. It'll be interesting to see if Eragon acts like a teenager because he's written by a teenager as the story goes on.
Yeah. And I mean, like, Christopher Paolini wasn't aiming to write a teen book, right? He was aiming to write a fantasy novel. And so, correct me if I'm wrong, but like, one of the distinctions between like a book geared towards like children or young adults, there has to be like a through line of self-discovery and like learning, but coming into yourself, right? There's usually an aspect of that in YA or 9 to 12. But if you're like, nah, I'm just writing Lord of the Rings, there isn't going to be a lot of that as a main focus.
I don't remember a ton from this series. A lot of it is Eragon figuring out how to do shit. It just hasn't come up yet, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, from the teen books I have read, they usually hit the ground running with that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's true.
But yeah, anyway, I enjoyed it. I like, the part that made me start thinking about it was just like how totally casual he was when this magic stone like exploded into existence. He's just like, dang, magic. Like, he reacts like he's like, oh no, and he's like careful about it, but he just like goes up to poke it and he's like, yeah, it's a magic rock that appeared. What should I do with it? It's like,
obviously,
what?
grab it.
Like, does everyone see magic all the time? Like why is he so chill?
Maybe that's like part of the teen aspect, because I feel like if I was 15 and I was out in the woods and found something weird, I would have been like, ooh, something weird. Like, this is an adventure. Again, to be fair, I read a lot of fantasy books when I was a teenager, so I was like hoping to discover I was the chosen one.
Right.
I would definitely bring this magic rock home if I was a teenager. Now, as a grown-up, if I was in the woods by myself and I heard an explosion, I would run away and not turn around and go straight home.
Yeah.
I'm not fucking with that. Like, I have bills to pay.
Accurate.
Like, yeah. I mean, that's sort of the vibe I get off of Eragon, who's just like, should I pick up this stone? At least it might pay for some food. It's like,
Yeah.
my guy, it magicked itself into existence in front of you. It's like blue. What are you doing?
So I interpreted it as he thought someone sent it there by magic, which is accurate. But I think he thinks it's like a gemstone.
Yeah.
And I know, because I've read this book before, that gemstones do have like magical power in this world.
Okay.
But he probably just views it as something unusual that I can sell for food, right? Like you said.
He's gonna use it as a fucking paperweight in his
Yeah.
house.
I mean, he tried to trade it for a roast beef. Like,
yeah.
knowing what I know, and he's like, oh, can I use this to buy like a week's worth of meat? I'm like, you're gonna just sell this dragon egg for a week's worth of meat? You absolute dunce.
I hope, well, I was gonna spoil. Never mind. We'll get to it later.
Well, okay.
No, it's fine. Imagine having to tell your dragon, like, hey, I almost sold you for a week's worth of meat.
It's like, I was real
Just so
hungry.
you
like,
know.
I tried to give you away as soon as I found you as an infant.
I was really hungry.
Yeah.
It would have been worth it.
In my defense, I was hunting and you ruined it.
And you ruined it.
You showed up and you meant that I didn't get to kill a deer. So you actually owe me supper now.
Yeah, forever. Supper forever.
That's always like a good way to approach your relationships with families, as like transactional.
Yeah.
It always works out.
That's what I think. Do you think?
Sorry, I can't take that seriously.
Yeah, it works every time, right, Sam?
Every time.
So
Every
good.
time.
Do you think there's a single dragon book out there that does not also have found family?
I feel like the nature of dragon books is a found family, right? Like it's a I mean, the kind of dragon books that I like to read are the ones where you form like a very strong partnership between a person and a dragon, which is inherently a found family.
Yeah. So like they have to go together? Is that why you like dragon books, Hannah?
Shut up.
By definition, they have to
Hannah out.
They have to have found family.
They do. Also, I was thinking about this today. As someone who is like, I don't mind romance books, but I find romantic subplots really irritating. So I think as someone who like isn't interested by romance in books usually, when I'm going into something knowing that the strongest relationship is going to be like a deep platonic bond between a person and a giant lizard, it like gets me real stoked.
I mean, fair.
There is no love stronger than that between a boy and his dragon.
But what about a girl and her dragon?
Well, yes, but Eragon is a boy. Which is... Actually, I feel like most of the dragon books I've read have boys in them.
So,
hear
me out. If you want to read one with a girl in it...
yeah, The Priory of the Orange Tree.
Maybe you should read the Mercedes Lackey books.
I'm gonna. I want to have a like dragon book month, but I'm too much of a mood reader to like commit to that.
Yeah, I was gonna say I failed on my pirate one.
I mean, the girl doesn't show up until the second book. So
I'm gonna write one.
I mean, it's written. It's just the second book of the series.
I'll get to it. I don't like reading ebooks as much as physical books, okay?
I'll mail you the real books. You have to mail them back, though.
Okay.
Doesn't Fireborn, though? Like, that's got Annie and, who's the other girl?
Krissa,
that's it.
Yeah.
And Julia, kind of.
And I mean, and I'm gonna mention Sarah J. Maas again, but Throne of Glass has wyverns. And some pretty badass females that fly those wyverns.
I don't want to read Throne of Glass.
But, like, you would like it so much better
Hannah,
honestly.
Sam and I literally told you would like Throne of Glass more than the other series, and then you read the other series.
You read the
and
other
don't-
series,
and
yeah.
don't want to read Throne of Glass because you didn't like the other series.
The other series was the one the library had.
I mean, fair, but like seriously, you would like Throne of Glass better, and there's dragons in book 3.
But it's like 8 books.
They're like 12 pages long. Well, the last ones are long, but the first ones are small.
I've seen a Sarah J. Maas book. They are not small.
They have
You could,
a lot
You could
of
enter an
mass.
intruder with those. Ah! Sophie, no! No!
I missed
How
it.
dare
I don't know what's
you!
happening.
I said you could say they have a lot of mass.
Oh. Okay.
Get it?
Yep.
Yes. Thank you. Unlike this egg, am I right?
Oh yeah, back to whatever we were talking about before.
I mean, there's not a ton to say about these chapters because they were like setup chapters,
Yeah.
establishing character and location.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I think I said this at the very beginning of Twilight, but I appreciate a concise, interesting, like, we're in the scene now. Like, we know exactly
Yeah.
where we are.
Mm-hmm.
Everything's been set up, and
Yeah.
that took, like, 10 pages.
Yeah.
I'm a huge fan of 9 to 12 or YA for that, when they can do this really well.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas in like a fantasy novel, it's like you're 8 chapters in and they're still describing
Yep.
Yeah.
what the setting is.
Yeah.
I always said Tamora Pierce is really good at this.
Mm.
2 sentences and you're like, I've got it. It's all under control.
Dang.
But this is
That's
also
such a
pretty
skill.
good. Yeah. Even for like an easier read.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like this is obviously like an easier read. It's not difficult
No.
to take in all the information coming in.
Yeah, I do feel like the author set the scene super well. It's like, yeah, this is like a generic fantasy world with like the spine, which is a mysterious forest on a mountain, and then there's a ravine with a big river that leads to like a settlement and then goes out towards the sea. And it's like, okay, I have read a fantasy book with these elements. Like, I know exactly what we're dealing with right now.
Yeah.
And like, I'm sure we're going to shit on how tropey this book is going to get, because there are no original thoughts anymore, but like some are more original than others, and I don't think this is going to be one of them. But the advantage of using those like fantasy tropes is he can just drop you into this Palancar Valley and you're like, yeah, I know what to expect here. Like, I know what's going on. Let's get on with the story.
Yeah.
On that point, is the spine supposed to be Mordor? Like, is it supposed to represent the same thing that Mordor did in Lord of the Rings?
I don't think
don't
so, because
think
Mordor is
so.
like evil, right? And the
Yeah.
spine is mysterious. I don't think the spine is malignant.
Is it like
Yeah.
the Forest of the Ents? I forget what it's called.
Like Mirkwood.
Mirkwood, yeah.
Yeah.
Wait,
Yeah.
no, Mirkwood's the elf one.
Yeah, I think there's an actual Mirkwood later, but it's the like, honestly, the immediate comparison that comes to my head is the Giver series. I think in the second and third book, there's like a magical forest that like nobody goes in or out of safely, but it's just kind of mysterious and like vaguely magical in its own right, as opposed to just being a forest where people do magic.
Right.
I think that's what this is.
That makes more sense. My brain was just like, because of that passage that I read earlier where he's so clearly the chosen one, I was like, is this supposed to be like Mordor? But now I'm thinking about it, okay, mythical forest like Mirkwood or the Ents place makes more
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah.
Just me, this whole book trying to relate everything to Lord of the Rings.
There will certainly be plenty to relate to Lord of the Rings.
it won't be difficult, I don't think.
Great, love that for me.
I think you're the resident expert on Lord of the Rings, so you'll have to tell us when it happens.
Yeah.
I mean, I know the movies really well. I can't remember the books worth anything, but movies, yes.
It took me like 3 years to read those books because they were so boring.
Yeah.
We had this exact conversation in the last episode.
did.
Probably.
We
Oops.
did.
It's like so hard because like I'm trying to think back on it, and now we're reading these books and we've read all of these tropes 1,000 times before. It was the same thing when we were reading Twilight, right? Twilight was the first vampire book I read, probably. And Eragon was probably the first dragon book I read. So coming into it and looking at it and be like, oh man, all of these tropes for dragon books.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, but when I read it the first time, I was probably like, holy this is amazing.
Yeah.
I've never seen anything like this.
Ever.
I think it's a good successor to Twilight in that Twilight was very much like a gateway paranormal romance book, and Eragon is very much a gateway high fantasy book.
Yeah, for sure.
It's not the most original, it's probably not the best, but it's going to be a lot of people's first high fantasy series.
Yeah.
Which is exciting.
When you're 14 and you're like, holy dragons.
Yeah.
No, it could be like this.
Yeah. I think I read some dragon books even before this one. I mean, like, there's the Dragons of Del Toro series, which is a little bit different, but...
Did that come out before Eragon, though?
I don't know.
I felt like that was later.
Was it? I can't remember when I read this and Dragons of Del Toro, and, like, there was the Dragon Rider book by Cornelia Funk, and there were, like, a couple other books. Yeah. I read a lot of dragon books specifically around this age, and I don't remember all of them. But this was definitely, like, the most expansive of the worlds that I read at that age. And I think, like, I can't think of a book where I have enjoyed the dragon-human relationship as much as I do in this series. It is very similar in some ways to the Temeraire books, which are, like, almost the adult version of this. They're historical fantasy more than high fantasy, but it's a similar trope in that, like, a dragon hatches and chooses a person and they are bonded. Spoiler.
Whoa. I mean,
in case you hadn't guessed that happens. But, like, I really like how close the dragon rider relationship is in this series, and that has clearly informed a lot of my favorites. Shut up, Sophie.
Really? You like that a lot, Hannah? I'm shocked.
Would you say that's your favorite?
It sure is one of my favorites. I can't tell if I feel hot and sweaty right now because it's like 30 degrees here or because I'm embarrassed. Listen. We all have our favorites.
Listen.
We do.
Twilight was the book where we call out Sam, and this is the book where we call out Hannah.
We're gonna call out Hannah the whole time.
Yep.
Gonna be
Can't wait to call out Sophie.
Oh man. I'm gonna start preparing my call-outs. It's gonna be.
It's gonna be.
Do we have to beep that out if there's a good chance it's gonna be our next book?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, great. But that's so far from now. We're only 2 chapters into Eragon. I did want to confirm that the first Dragons of Del Toro book came out in 2005. So after Eragon. Yeah.
Oh.
Interesting.
I only felt like that was the case because I remember reading the Dragons of Del Toro and having the visceral feeling like I was doing something wrong because I was way too old to be reading them.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Actually, I had that too.
Yeah.
Speaking of gateway to high fantasy books, if you are younger than 12 and you want a gateway to high fantasy book for that person, it's Del Toro Quest.
It's those ones.
It's those ones. They're still good. I am turning this podcast into a Del Toro Quest promo product. Listen, it's good, you guys. I always wanted to be Jasmine.
I mean, she was cool.
Oh, she was so cool. I wanted to be her so bad when I grew up. She was 12, but, like, I wasn't yet.
But one day I could be 12, probably.
Someday I'll be 12 and that'll be Jasmine, and then I'll be 15 and I'll be Eragon.
The dream.
And now I'm almost 30. What happened? What's a cool thing that happens once you're 30?
Listen, we just got to write more cool books with over 30-year-olds
Grown-ups.
going on
Yeah.
adventures.
I just had a recommendation on TikTok of a protagonist in a fantasy romance that was 30, and I was like, hells
Dang.
yes, I'm gonna read that.
Yeah, gotta read that one.
Yeah.
Gotta.
But it is very uncommon.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Tired
Yep.
of reading about 19-year-olds.
Right? 19 is like the youngest I think usually you find in adults as protagonists, and so like everyone just takes advantage of that.
Yes,
I'm
all
pretty
of the
sure I've
creepy
read-
men who write fantasy are like,
Yep.
she was lithe and nubile and 19 years
God,
old, and it's
I
like,
hate
I'm
it.
putting this book down now.
I hate it.
I mean, I've read a lot of fantasy novels where they were younger than 19 also.
So
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
there's no age limit.
Yeah, we went on like a wildly long tangent there.
Oopsie.
You know what? It's almost as long as the distance that Eragon's family lives from the town, because they live in this like tiny little town that's the only town in this valley other than Therinsford or whatever it was called. And Eragon's like, yeah, I walked back to my uncle's place 10 miles from town?
Oh, God.
Just a casual 10 miles.
That's so far.
Wait,
So
I need
far.
to 10 miles in kilometers.
How much in kilometers?
I'm looking.
It was night when he left the butcher's
16.
shop. So he walked 16 kilometers at night with a pack full of meat back to
That
home.
literally
my
would
God.
take you like
It would take hours.
it would take like 6 hours minimum, I'm pretty sure.
16
'Cause I-
kilometers?
I hiked, what did I hike that one day? I hiked 23 kilometers and it took 9 hours.
Yeah, it takes me about 15 minutes to walk a kilometer.
If the land was completely flat, like, yeah, maybe he could walk it fast, but like, I'm assuming he probably had to like go over some hills and some rocky
Yeah.
areas, and like, it wasn't
Yeah.
all sunshine and roses on that walk.
Yeah, like that's at least a couple hours. Just crazy.
Guys, that's like going from the aquarium in Toronto to Scarborough.
Oh my god!
Ew!
like past Scarborough, like past the bluffs. Wow.
How long does it take to walk 17 kilometers on Quora? It says about 2.5 hours at an average walking pace. That's ridiculous. Do they not have a
No.
horse?
This says 3 hours and 45 minutes.
That's so long. I mean, I guess to be fair, he was out in the woods for a week by himself.
Yeah.
True.
I don't know
that-
why I'm getting precious about it now.
Yeah. Dang. Anyway.
Still though. Yeah, that's so far. I also thought it was weird that he specified miles in the same paragraph as he's using leagues as a unit of measure. It's
Yeah.
like they're both
Yeah.
distance. And I did a teeny bit more Googling about leagues because last time we talked about it last time, but it was like very brief surface level and we were looking at
Yeah.
a nautical term. Apparently there's also like a terrestrial one, which is basically the distance it takes to walk 3 miles or how far you can walk in an hour are like kind of the
A league.
rough
Oh,
meanings of a
okay.
league. Yes. Which is so unhelpful that no wonder nobody actually
Yeah.
uses that as a unit of measure anymore. But it's just a weird choice to use both leagues and miles in the same
Yeah.
setting.
It'll be interesting to see, yeah, what else. It's like one of those things they talk about it, the accidental world building or whatever.
Yeah.
Mhm.
When you include things like miles, it
Yeah.
implies the discovery and creation of mile as a unit of measurement
Yeah.
exists in this world.
Yeah.
Yeah. I saw a whole TikTok rant someone did about, I think it was like a throwaway line about someone in a landlocked city using salt, and they went down this wild rabbit hole of like what that means for the universe that
Oh my
this story is
gosh.
created in. And I'm like, so this is like us with our vampire biology, but it's people with different areas of expertise doing
Yeah.
like their thing.
Hilarious.
But yeah, it's like, why miles?
I
Yeah.
love that.
Whenever I read a book and they use some strange word to denote like an hour, like it's essentially an hour, but they've
Yeah.
clearly gone to the extent of world building to the point where like, well, like the word hour wouldn't exist because they wouldn't, be measuring time in such and such way because it
Yeah.
wouldn't have been
Mhm.
invented. that it's just like, dang, that's when you know the world building was intense for this book.
Yeah.
For me, when you get to the point where you're giving an hour a different name, it's like you're just doing this to show that you did some world building or you got like super lost in the weeds.
Yeah.
Because it reduces the clarity of your book. If people have to remember that, like,
It's true, yeah.
this specific set of syllables means an hour, when you could just say that and, like, assume that it means something different or whatever. I've had the same kind of thing where it's like, what would people who live near a mountain eat in a fantasy world? And it's like, do they eat the same thing that exists in, like, a human world? Or, like, on Earth near a mountain? Or, like, it's a fantasy world and there's like different animals, there's going to be different pollinators, there's got to be different vegetation in this fantasy world where there's different animals, and you like end up going down a wild rabbit hole of like, how much of this do I have to make into fantasy?
Right.
I was literally having like a similar conversation with my boyfriend the other day because we were like, don't you hate how like fantasy books only have like one or two animals, or like in sci-fi where it's like you only ever see like one or two animals, but like there would be a whole ecosystem. Like there's over how many species of beetles alone on Earth, and it's like there should be so much more, but we only ever get like one or two. But then to think of the sheer amount of work it would take to come up with an entire ecosystem worth of animals for a book, it's like, okay, yeah, fair.
And then that's not even touching on like, you have to come up with the ecological history, but then also the geographical history, like the anthropological history, the linguistic history. It's like that
too much.
That's too much.
Yeah, I follow a couple like concept artists on Twitter.
Oh, cool.
And sometimes there's like one in particular, their name is Jay Eaton. Mm-hmm. They have invented a bunch of like sci-fi sentient races, and just the amount of detail they go into.
Yeah,
they'll have like a diagram of like the musculature, and then or another time they'll be like, and here's like the difference between ceremonial dress and, you know, regular dress, and here's the history behind it. And it's like,
oh my god,
this is amazing.
Yep, I love that. I love that a lot.
It's intense.
Yeah. So anyway, writing a book is really easy, and I don't know why none of us have done it yet.
World building is fun, but really difficult to keep on the rails.
Yeah.
And I'm excited to see more of the world that Christopher Paolini has built to stick Eragon into.
Hell yeah. Going into a fantasy book like this, even though it's, you know, as we've said, heavily similar to Lord of the Rings, like it's just kind of like you go into it and you can relax a little bit. Like you're like, I know the pieces that make up this world.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And I don't have to kind of stress about like, oh God, and I have to remember like these people and these species and these, you know, this setup of the political sphere. You're like, I kind of know how it's going to work.
Yeah.
So I don't have to really stress. I just have to remember the weird names that have been given to the elves and the orcs and the dwarves.
Yep.
The Urgles.
The Urgles and
the Urgles.
Yeah. So looking forward to that.
Mm-hmm.
Did we want to guess what happens next time?
Yeah.
The next two chapters are Dragon Tales. Dragon Tales, the best TV show.
It's almost time for Dragon Tales.
Exactly. And the one after it is Fate's Gift.
Oh. I have some guesses.
I know.
Okay, Sam, go.
Okay, Sam.
Dragon Tales is gonna be his uncle, or who does he live with again?
Yeah, his uncle Garrow and his cousin Rorin, which is going to be great because I can't fucking say this name, and Rorin. It's an audio medium.
Yeah, love that. So those two are gonna tell him like some fantastical story about dragons, and like he's gonna get all like, wow, that's so fucking cool, like I want a dragon. And then the second chapter, I forget what it's called already. Sophie, what was it called again? Fate's Gift. Fate's Gift is going to be a dragon, and he's going to meet his dragon, and he's going to get a baby dragon. That's my guess.
I mean, I was going to say that seems pretty fast, but if I've learned anything about reading Twilight, it's that, it's going to happen that fast.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's my guess as well, although I'm pretty sure I think it's going to be a different character who tells the dragon
That's
tale.
also what I was gonna say.
Oh,
Yes,
okay.
but I'm not going to say who it is because Sam hasn't met them yet.
Okay.
Chill.
Yeah.
Sophie, are you thinking of the one I'm thinking of?
No, I'm not. I don't remember anybody. Wasn't there?
Ooh.
I think maybe I'm getting an inkling of a character that exists that might be the one. But anyway, we'll see if I'm also right.
Listen, it's definitely not Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Yeah. Like I'm getting my brain is saying Aragorn vibes.
Yeah.
I really
we get in that character.
The gotta have character of Aragorn / Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Yeah.
That's my favorite character.
Me too.
Not surprised.
I love Aragorn. Hells yeah.
So I think we've got a pretty good guess.
Yeah.
Solid. We know the basic pieces that are going to go together to make this book, I think.
I think so.
Definitely.
Yeah, well then, let's talk about what we've been reading. I don't want to talk about the majority of what I've been reading, because... Listen, I just moved to a new place. Don't have any friends here yet. I've just been reading a lot of historical romance, but I did start The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. So I'm really excited about that one.
What do you think so far?
I'm like 2 chapters in, so it's pretty good, but I've really only just started.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I'm excited for it though.
Nice. So I just finished a nonfiction audiobook called Braiding Sweetgrass: Indigenous Wisdom, Scientific Knowledge, and the Teachings of Plants. It's great. 10 out of 10. Like, go read it. You learn a lot. I liked it a lot.
I've heard a lot of really good things about that book.
Yeah, the audiobook was really well done too. The author reads it, and it's just like a very peaceful book to listen to. Like, her voice is very soothing. So I highly recommend that. And then physically, I am a little bit behind on our Midlight book club, but I just started Foundry Side. I definitely will not finish it by the end of August, but I'll have it read by the end of September, alongside our September book. Yay. Which I guess I should mention because...
It's my birthday book!
It's Sophie's birthday book!
Yeah.
And she has picked... Do you want to say it?
Yeah, I picked one of my favorite books that I read recently, which was The 10,000 Doors of January by Alex Harrow. It's so good.
I'm very excited to read it. Like, it's been on my TBR since you told me about it, so I'm very glad you're like forcing us to read it. I like it. I'm here for it.
I hope it holds up because
I've heard nothing but good things about it.
Yeah, it gave me a lot of feels.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, that's my reading. Hannah, what about you?
Yeah, I am also behind and started Foundry Side today.
Yeah, there we go.
Yep. Oh, listen, the first 2 chapters got me though. I was like, this is
the first chapter got me hooked too. Yeah. I'm here for it.
It seems like it's gonna have Lies of Locke Lamora vibes with a really interesting magic system. Yeah. It's like what I've got from the first 3 chapters. So I'm looking forward to continuing that. I tried to read more, but I fell asleep.
Yeah, fair.
So not an indictment on the book, but definitely an indictment on my sleep schedule. Other than that, I'm still listening to the audiobooks of the Bartimaeus trilogy. I'm about halfway through the 3rd book in the series now, and I still love it. It's so good. If you're looking for a middle grade fantasy book that's not Eragon, I definitely recommend the Bartimaeus trilogy by Jonathan Stroud.
Nice.
And yeah, so we'll have more to talk about Eragon and dragons and my literary proclivities later. But for now, if you liked this chapter of Midlight Crisis, consider rating and reviewing us on iTunes or your podcatcher of choice. You can talk to us and find fun-related content on social media. We are at Midlight Pod on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok, and all chapters of the show thus far are available on our website, midlightpod.podbean.com, and on YouTube.
And much like us reading 8 pages and talking about it for an hour, in these chapters of Eragon, Sloane spent his leisure time digging in obscure crannies for minuscule pieces of filth. Because what else are you going to do with your time, right?
Yeah, we definitely didn't spend 15 minutes talking about what a mile is.